Hi there, it's December the 5th, and today we begin a new book in the scriptures, in the part of the Hebrew scriptures which is called the Nevi'im Achronim, the latter prophets, and in particular this book, the book of Hosea, begins a series of 12 prophets which are often seen in the Hebrew scriptures as one book together. They're called in Aramaic, they're called by an Aramaic name, the Tre Asar, which means the 12, because there are 12 books going through from here through to Malachi, and they're in the order that we find them in our Old Testament. This book that we're starting with today is Hosea. Hosea, we know him as. Hosea is interesting, it means salvation, or he saves, and it's very much like the name Joshua, like the name Isaiah, Yeshayahu. God will save, the Lord will save, and it's got a real theme of salvation in it. But as we come to chapters 1 to 3, as we're reading, we read of a prophet here who is very much involved in the action of the prophecy that he's giving. So Hosea, we're told, is the son of Be'eri. He possibly is a prophet, known as a prophet already, but God tells him to take a wife who is basically a cult prostitute. Now, prostitution and sexual favours were connected with the worship of the Baalim, and this is a time in Israel's history, and we're particularly thinking of the northern tribes here. This is a time in Israel's history where they have got into worship of the Baalim, the masters, the fertility cults and the fertility gods. And so the Lord is saying to Hosea, take a wife who is a fertility prostitute for this god and make her your wife. And he takes her and he has 3 children by her, and he's told to name the 3 children with a prophetic naming. This of course isn't the first time children have been prophetically named. Isaiah named his children prophetically with prophetic meanings. So the first of his children is called Yisrael, means the Lord will sow, or God will sow, and it's actually about the valley of Yisrael, the valley of Jezreel, where Jehu wiped out the family of Ahab, the descendants of Ahab, and the Lord said there's going to be a payback for that. And at the time that Hosea is writing this, at the time Hosea is prophesying this, it's the time of Jeroboam II of Israel, who is the last descendant of Jehu on the throne, and it says that God is going to bring him to judgment. And then his second child is called Lo Ruhamah, and Lo Ruhamah means I will not have compassion, no compassion upon her. And Lo Ruhamah is called that because the Lord says, I will no longer have compassion on Israel. He says, I'm going to have compassion on Judah. I will be compassionate towards the southern nation, but I'm finished with Israel because of its terrible idolatry. And then he has a third child, a son called Lo Ami. That means not my children, not my child, not my people. And this not my people is God disowning the people of Israel in particular. And he even goes as far as to say, I will not be their God. But he says it in a very specific way. He says in Hebrew, Lo Ehyeh, means I am not. So he's taking that name that he revealed to Moses way back in book of Exodus, and he's negating it and saying, I am not going to be, I am not anymore for you, the Lord. But then straight away the Lord seems to be saying, but I am intending to restore. I'm intending for Israel actually to be together, to be one nation, to be restored, and to be as numerous as the sand on the seashore. And then there's reference in chapter 2 to this period in Israel's history, and where they're going after the fertility gods, where they're believing that it's the fertility gods who provide all the good things for them, all the wine and the corn and the provisions. And the Lord is saying, I'm going to judge Israel for this, and it's like she's gone off, and I'm going to put thorns in her way. I'm going to stop her. I'm going to stop her in her tracks and make her turn back and seek me. And there's a very beautiful passage here where the Lord speaks of the intimacy that he has with Israel. It's a very intimate expression through Hosea. He says, I'm going to allure her, I'm going to woo her, I'm going to bring her into the desert, I'm going to give her back her vineyards. And the valley of Achor, the valley of trouble, is going to become Petach Tikva, a door of hope for her. So where there's been trouble, there's going to be hope. Not only that, but the Lord is going to re-establish the covenant with her, and he's going to establish this covenant. He's going to betroth her to him in righteousness, in justice, in faithfulness, in covenant grace, in trust, words that are connected with covenant. God says, I'm going to make you my wife again. And then he says, you'll no longer call me Baali. That means, it has a double meaning. It means my husband, but it's also the name of the Baals. You're not going to call me Baal anymore. You're going to call me Ishi, my husband, my man. And the Lord is promising that he is going to become the husband of his people again. And there is going to be a covenant of peace to come, which God is going to restore. And then in chapter 3, there is just this reiteration, in a sense, from the point of view of Hosea, of what's going to happen with Gomer, his wife, that she is going to be unfaithful to him. She is going to go off seeking after her lovers and commit prostitution with them. But he is going to restore. God is going to restore. And this is a picture of Israel, because it says that Israel is going to be abandoned for a while. It's going to have to be redeemed and restored, like Hosea has to restore Gomer to himself by paying for her again with wine and corn. So God is going to redeem back his bride Israel, and he's going to restore her. There will be a time when she's without a king. There's a time when she will be out without priests, will be without the temple, and obviously this time is seen ahead that's coming. But God says, I am going to restore her, and they're going to seek the Lord, and I'm going to put in place a Davidic king. And I am going to be the one who shows my righteousness and my goodness in the end days. It's amazing how intimate God is with his people in this passage. And we can see this lover that comes to us, this lover who comes even now and would woo us away from every other rival, every other thing that would take hold of our devotion, and he would have our devotion alone. He is the one who will betroth us as the bride of Christ. He betroths us to him in righteousness. He betroths us to himself in covenant grace. He betrothed himself to us in justice. Have a very good December the 5th.